Ever wonder how to get really lush, expensive looking florals in an arrangement? Well, the trick is layering, and if you don't know what that is, let's go through it together. First, you'll need a nice assortment of flowers. I've got dahlias, cosmos, some yarrow, a couple of assorted grass weed looking things. I've got zinnias, and some leucanthemum. And yes, these are all grown for me at the Cosmic Floral Farm. So what you'll need to get started is some sort of vessel. I'm gonna be using this low bowl, something shallow like this. Using chicken wire is a really good mechanic. You're gonna need some snips, optional floral knife if you're into that, some tape, I'm just using Scotch tape, it's gonna be nothing fancy, and some water. So this is actually moon water. I put this out under the full super blue moon just a few nights ago, so it's gonna be extra special. And then of course you're always gonna need some sort of refreshments if you're gonna be here a while. So I've got some sour teas and some coffee. Cheers. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is roll out your chicken wire. I just got this at Michael's. You can pick it up any craft store. So roll it out until you've kind of got like a rectangle. And I'm gonna end up cutting this entire sheet and rolling it into like a little bit of a ball. So some heavy duty snips will work. Try not to use any scissors that you wanna use for ribbon or fabric later, because those are gonna get dull immediately. These are kind of my all-purpose snips. You're gonna wanna kind of curl in the ends, make sure that there's no sharp pokey bits. And I'm just gonna kind of wrap this around a few times so that there's like an inner layer of chicken wire kind of wrapped around a bigger layer. And what that's gonna do is just gonna sit in the bowl, kind of flatten it, but it's not gonna come out much around the sides. And when we add our flowers, it's really gonna cover this. Now, you're gonna probably think, okay, this is not very sturdy mechanics. No, so that is where the tape comes in. So I'm just using regular Scotch tape, like I said. Real florist tape is actually much better. It's a stronger adhesive type. It's not going to come off with water, but hey, use what you have. I'm going to create an X and put the tape starting pretty low on this side. You want it to stick, and on the same, on the opposite side, just to make sure it's not going to fall out when you start putting stems inside. So a little X, little cross, whatever. You're gonna add your water. I'm not gonna use all of this because I'd like to save some of it, but just a little bit will help. While I mix it with some regular water. Refreshment break. Okay, we're ready. So I've got my arrangement. And the most important thing is to pick a front and a back and continue to turn your arrangement as you go, just so that you get a proper 360-degree view of around it. That way you're sure you're not gonna miss any holes or have any gaps or anything between your greenery and your flowers. Okay, so when I mentioned layering before, and as you see, the tape just popped off, so that's gonna happen when you add water. Floral tape is better. Okay, so we're gonna start with our layering method. So I like to start with one thing at a time, and it usually starts with my greenery or my filler. Then I go to my mass flowers, which is anything a little bit bigger with a visual weight into it. And then I work up to my focal and my line flowers. Depending on your arrangement, you're gonna have a mix of all of these flowers or one or two types of categories. So right now I've got a little bit of everything. So I'm gonna start with my fillers. So I don't really have much greenery, but the fillers and the greenery, you can kind of get away with both if you cut your stems in a certain way. So I've got my floral knife, and I'm just gonna start by stripping all the leaves. It's really important that you strip down all the leaves on the stem and make it as smooth as possible. If you have any leaves lingering on the stem, it's gonna mix in with the water and turn to sludge and gonna add a lot of bacteria and a really stinky smell into your water. So it's important to just clean the stems up, and this will help your flowers last as long as they can. Now with my floral knife, I'm right-handed, so I use it in my right hand. Take my stem, and the idea is you want to slice it and give it as much surface area as possible so that it's going to drink up as much water as it can. So I'm going to start at the back, and I'm going to slice, kind of pull it down like I would with a paring knife, but avoid my thumb. So you're going to cut it on an angle, and you see the inner part of the flower stem. That's what you want, a nice clean cut. And then I'm going to just insert it chicken wire is a little bit tricky to get used to if you've never used it before, just because it requires a little bit more precision when you're adding your stems, but I really like it. So I'm just going to start by going all the way around. Remember to turn your arrangement as you go. We have a little bee. Sometimes I have little friends on my flowers and they don't want to go away when I cut, so I have to remember he's in here. Let him loose. So I'm just going to go all the way around, like that. So you have a little bit of something that looks like that. So I will fill in these later on, but this is my front. So I've got more of a concentration of flowers upper facing. So I'm going to turn that back around. So I'm done with my fillers. Okay, so my next step is going to be adding my mass flowers. So that's anything with visual weight to it. Think dahlias, peonies, roses, anything that's going to take up a lot of space and be quite condensed and dense in the flowers. So this is going to be a 360-degree arrangement, so I don't want to forget about putting anything in the back. So I am going to put this nice dahlia, cut it about mid-length, and angle it so that it's not actually touching the bottom of the bowl. See, there's still a little bit of a gap there, but it is going to take up a lot of that room. And do the same on this side as well. Once I'm kind of happy with that, I'm going to turn it again. Just make sure I'm still liking the overall shape of it, which I do. Got some daisies as well. These are leucanthemum. Sometimes also grouping flowers together in a pair of two make a lot more impact than one flower would on its own. So if you have a lot of color in an arrangement, which I do right now, and I have maybe one or two things that are like white in a contrast, I do like to group them together. That way the color is a little bit more balanced in the arrangement and it makes a little bit more of a punch. Okay, so you can kind of see the layering effect taking place. So when I do this, that means all of the fillers that I started with are just a little bit lower, and then my mass flowers are also filling in the holes that I've left, but sitting a little bit further on top, so you get a little bit of depth throughout your arrangement. So you can kind of see that as well as I turn it all the way around. Not everything is at the same layer or length either. We want to let these flowers breathe. I really am not a fan of arrangements that are all flat, basically round, where all the flowers are just shoved in and you can't really appreciate each flower for itself. The more negative space within an arrangement like this, and if you kind of start slow and gradually move up, I think it just adds a lot more interest and it looks more expensive, it looks a little more editorial, a little bit more upscale, I guess. Okay, and I've got one more flower. So. I'm pretty happy with that. Still different. Okay. We're gonna have to do a part 2, so stay tuned.